I'm Jacqueline Johnson.
And I'm Marina Middleton.
And this is Work Party, a podcast that's part work and part party. Work Party celebrates a new generation of women who are redefining the meaning of work on their own terms and having fun while doing it.
In this podcast, we are diving into all the areas of being a working woman: mind, body, and business. No topic is off limit.
Real talk and hot takes. Think of us as your internet work wives. This is Work Party,
the podcast.
Wait, where's the champagne?
The global women's workwear market is worth over $27 billion and growing. And for most of history, it has been built by men, for men, with women getting a watered-down version with fewer pockets, worse fits, and a fraction of the style. My guest today decided to fix that. Sali Christeson spent a decade in finance in supply chain at Cisco, read a study showing that what a woman wears directly impacts her earnings over her lifetime, and she founded Argent, a workwear brand now worn by Hillary Clinton, Kamala Harris, Meghan Markle, and myself currently. I love it. Okay, so she built it without a fashion background, fought for every dollar of her funding, survived a pandemic that nearly shut the brand down, and came out the other side with a community, a retail footprint, a wholesale partnership with Nordstrom, and a mission that goes well beyond clothes. So welcome, Sali.
Thanks, Jacqueline.
So excited to be here. I've been a fan for a very long time.
I mean, I'm so happy to be here. Likewise.
Okay, so let's start at Cisco. I had no idea. So talk to us about your corporate experience and how it's helped inform building Argent.
Yeah, so my background is actually, I started in banking and finance out of undergrad, and it was right when Lehman's collapsed. And so it was a really good experience because I was sort of at the forefront of like all of this problematic behavior, but it was all about learning for me. And there was so much learning in that. And then went back and got my MBA. I knew that I wanted to start a company, didn't know what company I would start. And that's like since birth, and I'm sure you're the same. It's like in me. And then went back, got my MBA with a focus on supply chain operations, went to Cisco, did a rotational program in their supply chain organization, moved into cloud, and then in 2015, read the study that you mentioned that showed that women are judged based on what they wear, which I'd experienced throughout my career working in different cities, different industries. And I think the fact that they quantified the impact on your lifetime pay over your lifetime just like was so shocking to me. And I was so fed up with my own experiences of shopping for like different types of work dress codes that I felt like there has to be a better way. So let's do it. I also saw an opportunity with Argent to leverage the brand to attack gender equity, really, and to storytell professional women in a way that really was not being done, and try and remove barriers for women. And that was really the goal at the outset.
So, and you've really been at that since the forefront. And storytelling in 2015 wasn't really a thing. Like now it's like table stakes to start a company, but you had no fashion background, no apparel experience, and really no connections in the industry. So what were the first 12 months like building Argent? Like what were some of the issues that you had?
Yeah, I mean, I was so naive going into starting Argent. What I did know is that I did not want to start an apparel brand. Like I knew enough to know that it's a beast of an industry, and it's usually like the unsexy categories that are actually like full of more opportunity. With that said, given that I am business minded, the first thing I did was just look at the size of the category, and I saw how massive it was. And I saw these multi-billion-dollar brands that purport to be quote workwear that are just leaving women so like grossly underserved. And so I put in my notice with a vision of innovating the product with, style, quality, functional details, versatility. I had the casualization of the workplace like in mind, and that was really not being addressed at all.
Yeah, that was happening like in parallel to I think what you were building.
Exactly. And so because I was working in tech and at the forefront of that, I was like, there's an opportunity from a product perspective. But if I don't quit my job and go at this like full time, I just won't do it. And I didn't have any bandwidth. I mean, I was working around the clock. And so I just, went in really, really not knowing what to expect and trying to force some discipline. So looked at a business plan without actually writing a business plan, mentally mapped out priorities, met with as many people as I could, connect with, and just started networking and like piecing it all together. From me quitting Cisco to launch. It took us a year, which is very fast in this category. I would say like after all the conversations, I eventually built our financial model, which really, as you know, is like the business plan.
The beast, yeah.
And that informed, every decision that we made from there. And the rest is history. We launched in 2016 at a women's conference. And
I love that. So,
Yeah.
Obviously as a fashion brand, you'd be like, okay, fashion show or trunk show or, nowadays influencer event. But you launched at a conference. You met your consumer where they were. Tell us about that.
I think that's what's so important is we understand who our consumer is and always have, and we're going to show up where it's easiest for her. And so I had been going to these women's conferences, roughly like 5,000 to 10,000 people at each conference. The most time constrained women are carving this day out of their calendar. They've committed, they don't have work commitments. So I thought it'd be really interesting to create like an elevated shopping experience alongside these really like stale activations.
For
it's
sure.
like JP Morgan and Cisco and Pfizer, and no offense to them, but it's like a table and some handouts and like maybe, like a stress squeeze ball or something. And I thought it would be so cool to launch there. And I also thought it would be a really good way to establish product market fit. Where else are you going to be able to like throw blazers, throw pants, dresses on so many women at such high volume? We did $30,000 that day, and it was pure chaos. And it's like remains like one of my favorite experiences to date.
Oh my God, amazing. That must have been such a celebration, like when it happened.
It was wild. It
Genius,
was absolutely
though.
wild. It
So
was
smart.
so fun.
And I love that because it's like, I think for anyone out there who's building a brand, it's like you feel like you need to throw what is now like a Tarte brand trip or a Revolve around the world or like a fest. You have to throw like these massive things to even get an ounce of attention. But actually, if you go straight to your consumer and give them a good experience at scale, you can make money and get product market fit.
I think it's it's like so much more complicated than it needs to be sometimes. And it really is about business at the end of the day. Yes, like we're catering to a consumer we care deeply about, and we're trying to offer an elevated product, elevated experience, all the things. But we're also a business, and you need to sell the product and you need to make money in order to like stay in business. And you can't lose sight of like, that fact.
Of course, yeah. So a male VC told you in 2015 that utility doesn't belong in women's clothing.
Mm-hmm.
And you kept that feedback.
Mm-hmm.
The investor was obviously wrong. Pockets became, the most memed about thing on the internet. So what does it say about where VC money was going and that he couldn't see it still?
It's funny because this was like the height of the consumer wave where brands were getting overfunded in consumer. And despite that, like it was still just so challenging to overcome the three things working against me, right? Female founder, female focused product, apparel. Like that's the worst combination
Truly,
you could like possibly ask for. And so very early on, I got this feedback from very reputable partner at a VC fund. And the other piece of feedback he included in his email was, we've seen so many pitch decks for women's workwear. And my takeaway was one, of course you have, because it's a huge...
There's a need, yeah.
Yes. And like, in my opinion, no one's done it right yet. And I have a vision to do it differently, and I believe in myself and I believe in that vision, and like, we're going to make it happen and just like watch. The utility piece, I think, just reinforced my frustration with the fact that fashion, as all industries, even though there are a lot of women that do work in fashion, the higher up you go, it's just men. And it's all of these decisions are made by men. And it's a really easy check the box category, actually. Like it's we know that we're going to sell a pencil skirt and a suit, and like, let's not even innovate it because it's easy and she has to come for that. And like, do women even work? And there's this like disconnect there as well, because I don't think women and work go hand in hand for these male leaders. And so I think it just really lit a fire for me, and I still have that email. I'll go back to that email because it's like so motivating, because I'm like, look at me now.
Yeah.
And like, what are you talking about?
What are you talking about? No, I trust and believe we have so many stories we could talk about there. So cut to, you raised from angel investors early on. Tell us about that process.
So I went out to raise the same week. A company that just very publicly sold this week went out, 2 male founders. They got in 1 week $1.5 million, and Kleiner was part of that deal. Kleiner would have told me that we don't invest in deals like this. We don't invest in apparel too early. Not to put them on the spot because it would be every VC. But when it comes to men, especially men that present as like tech bros with a back of the napkin idea, they get funded in 2 seconds. And for me, my experience was very different. It was really beg, borrow, and stealing every dollar and like working so hard to not only have a pitch deck, but have a product and have a team and have a financial model and have a fully like baked plan and go to market and have like data to support that plan. And it took me a year and a half to raise just shy of that amount of money they got in a week. I raised 1.375 million. Amazing. And it took just a lot of hustling, a lot of chasing, a lot of like, I'll be in Portland, Oregon, actually tomorrow. Can you meet? Are you around? Those
totally.
Those like, trips you make up.
Oh, the trips you make up. I know, truly. And also though, it is so true. We have to work 100 times harder to get the same result. And it takes 100 times longer.
And time is like your most valuable resource. And so it's so infuriating. And what people don't understand, and I know that we'll probably get into this, but like, female founders get 2% of funding, maybe less than. I think it's trended down again. And that is the equivalent of like $0. And cash is everything. Like it frees up our time. It allows us to make like small mistakes. It allows us to learn from those mistakes and allows us to get out in the world. And I think we've had these like really public failures in recent weeks and months because these were flawed concepts that were overfunded and like, they were everywhere and they were successful for a period of time because they had all this cash. And like, I think it's a double-edged sword, but women just aren't even allowed.
You're not allowed to fail. Like you can't make a small mistake, because it's the ripple effect of everything. I mean, I think a lot about Elizabeth Holmes and like anytime I bring up fundraising or investing in a woman, I made a comment on some video and it kind of went viral, but cause it was like a spoof on venture investing. And I was like, this is so accurate, except they would never fund the woman. And someone was like, Elizabeth Holmes got money and look what happened. It's like the one person that we're going to like now benchmark against every single woman. It's frustrating. And to your point, cash is everything. So let's talk about COVID. Obviously that was devastating for my business, devastating for your business. How did you make decisions during that time period and how did you come out okay?
So launched in 2016, very predictable, like linear growth from 2016 to 2020. Early 2020 was good for consumer. If you'll recall, like most businesses were doing well January, February, March.
I do recall.
Times were good.
What a heyday.
Times were really good. We were preparing to go out for our Series A because it was just like, oh, we have it,
It's on.
And then March hit and unfortunately, I was on the extreme end of the spectrum in terms of impact and we went to $0 days and I was 8.5 months pregnant.
Oh.
And my husband, who leads marketing for us, we had to have some really tough conversations and make some aggressive choices that ended up saving the business. So we got out of every lease that we were in because no one was really anticipating the full implications of the pandemic. And we furloughed the team, which was heartbreaking and devastating. Yeah. We paused production just to see if we could get a little more information in terms of what was around the corner, but we just sort of stopped the business.
Yeah.
And it was very touch and go. And it was very much like, do we survive or do we not? And I think every investor would have understood had we not. I had investors that were texting me in March. I remember the CNN article that was like, workwear is dead forever. And she texted, we should talk. And I was like, that's okay. Like, I'm in this right now.
I'm good.
I'm good right now.
Time, tone, and turf, okay? This is not the time, tone, and turf.
That's right. But it was so stressful, but it was the right choice. We had a hot pink suit that we ended up, that ended up saving our business, if I'm being honest, and we can talk about that. But we put all of our energy into that and also learning from all of our mistakes. I made like a bajillion and I'm still making them, but learning from all of those to rebuild. And then I really bet on the reason for starting the business. Like this needs to survive and women deserve this. And like, I'm going to fight till the death to make sure that this survives because she deserves it. Yeah. And silver lining would be that I got to take a proper maternity leave and there were zero expectations of me.
True.
But people really pivoted into like loungewear and I refused to do that because that felt disingenuous to what we were building. And instead, I just focused on strategy. And slowly, like starting in 2021, we saw cities start to come back online. And I was aggressive and I was very ready. And suiting's been trending since 2021, and we've been, catching up with demand since then. And so I made all the right bets, and I think I just saw around the corner. And I'm so happy that I did, because I do feel like we're really meeting a severely underserved need.
100%. So let's talk about the hot pink voting collection that you launched.
Yeah, so we had a hot pink suit that we designed, and we had different plans for it, actually. There was a different nonprofit that we were going to partner with. We were going to launch it in the spring, and it definitely would not have broken through the way that what we launched did. We put a pause on that partnership because we put a pause on everything, and we got connected to Supermajority, which was a nonprofit started by Cecile Richards, who's iconic, and this incredible group of activists focused on seeing women as a voting bloc, and a serious voting bloc, and focusing on women and getting them to vote, period. Nonpartisan, but just really encouraging them to, exercise that right. And we felt like we could add value around the 2020 election by using the suit as like a vehicle to communicate what they were trying to get out in the world. And so we approached them. They said yes. It was 3 weeks before we launched the campaign. It was a very rapid thing that we pulled together. But it ended up, and your goal with any campaign is for it to be as big as it possibly can be. There's no way to predict what's going to go viral. There's just no way to do it, but you attempt to do that. And we ended up just having this like lightning in a bottle.
I remember my feed was just all pink suits one day, and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Yeah, it definitely took hold. And I think what's also probably cultivated that is the relationships you've built over time and the people who were willing to like show up for you during that moment.
Yeah, totally. I think it was that. And I also think it just felt fresh. And it was a time when we were all glued to our phones, and we were all so desperate for just connection.
Yeah.
And we were connecting through social media at that point in time. This suit also was like Instagram candy. And so I think that people were at home and like hungry for something to do. And it was a really interesting group that we tapped across activists and business leaders and athletes and celebrities that all helped amplify the message of like Supermajority, really. And the slogan for the campaign was "Ambition Suits You," because Kamala, who was on the ticket, had really been penalized for being ambitious. And I think women often, we are penalized for being ambitious, and we're towing such a fine line at all times. But we wanted to flip that pejorative on its head and make it a positive and encourage women to be ambitious. And yeah, billions of impressions. We sold out of the suit in less than 24 hours. We made our entire year. And that one day, we were able to survive because of that one campaign. And it was pretty surreal. And then for context, Dave and I are at home with like baby carriers and at the playground and like wearing sweatsuits. Yeah, exactly. Disgusting. And there's this like, fashion campaign that's gone viral that we're running behind the scenes.
Amazing. I mean, the power of marketing is very real. You guys have been, primarily started out as direct to consumer. Now you have a beautiful retail space in Soho. You have this wholesale partnership with Bloomingdale's. It's a lot of pivoting in retail strategy, but what is working best for you guys?
What's working best right now is direct to consumer stores specifically. So we're loving experiential retail. We're seeing such a huge appetite for connection, and we've really built this thing brick by brick. It's been so intentional, I think. Like, how do we add value to our consumer? How do we give her confidence? How do we help her show up as her best self? And how do we continue like giving her tools and resources? And I think we've graduated now into those connections are such a valuable resource. How do we bring together women across different age groups, different experiences, different industries, different backgrounds, and just help them grow from those relationships and have them live beyond the brand? And so we've seen a lot of energy around in-store selling, online selling, and then just events and relationships. Wholesale, so we're having a lot of success right now with wholesale more as a vehicle for distribution, accelerating distribution, because the brand is so hot, because the brand is like, we can't keep products stocked right now. Like, we're having trouble keeping, our best sellers in stock. We're launching things, they're selling out faster than we've ever experienced. And we have high awareness, but we don't have the distribution that I would love to have. And because of that, we're leveraging both Rent the Runway and Bloomingdale's and specialty stores to just accelerate the opportunity to get in front of the customer and allow her to touch and feel and try on the product.
Yep.
That's been incredibly helpful. Retail growth, though, is a huge part of our strategy right now.
Amazing. Yeah, that makes so much sense. And like really treating those channels as like marketing in a way is genius. So I want to talk a little bit about the news that broke earlier. You were saying Everlane being bought by Shein, but also just like the influx of the cheapening of products, right? Like even for nice, expensive brands, you're seeing polyester everywhere. You're seeing like this basically downgrade in materials and quality. What has been your perspective on the industry and how are you doing it differently at Argent?
Yeah, I think the challenge is that sustainability isn't always rewarded, and that's a huge founding pillar for our brand. We just want to make sure that we're making the right choices at all times. We, from a marketing perspective, lead with our messaging around women and around gender equity, and that's an intentional choice. We do not really talk a lot about sustainability, but we have run a longstanding partnership with Citizens of Humanity with Custom Product because they are so committed to sustainability, and so are we. And that's really rooted in, again, the planet and making great choices. And they really are at the forefront of that. Their CEO reached out because she saw the fabrics that we were using, the qualities, the production quality, all of that. In terms of downgrading of quality, what people don't realize is that the leading pollutant of the planet is actually fast fashion going into landfills. It doesn't break down. That is the number one problem our planet is facing. And so we're really trying to, as I've mentioned, make great decisions up front, but we also want to offer products that are classic, that are timeless, that stay in your closet for a long time, and that have a resale value. I just want our pieces to stay in circulation. And so, and I want consumers to understand that paying more for a garment that is high quality is worth it. It's cost per wear. And we really, like, we're not necessarily seeing the consumer behavior match their belief in climate and climate change.
Yeah. That's what a lot of people have been like commenting on the Everlane thing too, is like, yes, I mean, obviously it's a failure, but it also was speaking to the fact that like, apparently consumers just didn't care about sustainability to the point where that company could be successful.
I think consumers care more about cost than they do about sustainability, unfortunately. And that's, I mean, that's understandable because it's, you know,
it's expensive
life
to live
is
right
hard
now.
and expensive, and inflation is on the rise and gas prices are on the rise and people are living paycheck to paycheck. So it's all very understandable. I think that's where the burden is partially on the industry and on the government to make sure that there's a certain set of guidelines that we're forced to adhere to. I also think it's like, we make choices every day with our wallets. And so that intentionality is so critical. We talked about how hard it is for women to fundraise, how you can show up for a woman. Maybe you can't write a check, but it's by shopping their brand. Like, and for us, we're much bigger than we were at launch, obviously, and we're growing, but every sale still matters to me. Every sale will always matter to me. If I see Argent in the wild, I will find you. I will talk to you. Like, it just, to be able to support brands that are like making the right choices, to me is like where we can put the burden back on the consumer a little bit.
1,000%. And it's such a small way you can contribute, especially how we close the gap specifically with funding. You know, again, I don't think it's that, hey, you guys need to invest in more women. It really is, we need more women GPs that are like being able to deploy capital because they understand the problem, they understand the solutions, and they'll bet on women all day long. And then you also need women supporting these women-founded companies so that they have the revenue to then go to the VCs and get the money and therefore build bigger businesses and generational wealth. It's a trickle down, like it all makes an impact.
Completely. I think, I mean, you understand this better than most. I think men do a really good job of supporting one another, supporting each other's businesses, plugging each other into, you know, contacts, into their network, investing in one another, buying, you know, products from one another. And I think that's where women are catching up now.
Yeah.
I think that's the gift the generation above us gave our generation. It's this scarcity mindset into a mindset of abundance. That is what we're allowed to live because of, you know, all of the challenges that they had to go through. And so the good news is I do think we're catching up and I do think we're making progress. I think that there are a lot of headwinds right now, but I'm still optimistic and hopeful.
Same. I feel the exact same way. I do think we're starting to make headwinds. I also think there's a lot of, and we were chatting about this on the last podcast, like women investing in women, like angel checks, small checks, but still writing checks into women-owned businesses.
This is where I think your experience is also really interesting. I think like women have to think differently and approach it differently. Everyone wants to like push best practice on women, and like from the start of Argent, best practices for fundraising, like having to meet with this partner and having to do it this way, it's not set up for me. It's not made for me. It's not made for women. And so we have to get creative. And I also think we have to like take back the power, because I think early days in starting a company, you're really quick to give up that power. And male investors are there to tell you what you can and can't do. And it really is about, are you selling a product? Are you making money? Is it scalable? Is this a like, well-founded idea? That's it.
Yeah, 100%. Like I completely agree with you. And I also think the best success I've had with fundraising was getting introductions from other founders who had fundraised and successfully.
Definitely.
Those have been the best introductions, or the best sort of outcome, I would say, ever. Going in cold, even if you're a twice exited founder, even if you have all the relationships, you are coming in as such an underdog to even get over the barrier to entry. To your point, back of the napkin ideas getting funded. It was the most wild experience I've ever had. But here we are, 10 years plus into our businesses. How do you attribute the longevity and the cultural relevance that Argent has been able to maintain?
Oh yeah, go 10 years. The thing that's been constant for us, and we were talking about this, I think before we started recording, is our mission. And our mission is to remove barriers for women. And I'm so deeply committed to the cause of Argent that, and I intimately understand our consumer and her pain points. And I think we've evolved with her and will continue evolving with her. We're also offering a product that gives her confidence that she's never been given. And so I think by just like having a pulse on her and who she is and like what her unique challenges are and continuing to meet those needs. And because I am that consumer, it's just allowed us to continue growing the business, and it will allow us to continue growing the business. And there are some big moments. I mean, obviously COVID was a big setback, but we started in 2016 really focused on the individual and making sure we had a great product. That took time. I don't think that we had the right product offering that really matched my vision until coming out of COVID. I think that's a piece of it. And then introducing editorial, like our unfair competitive advantage. It's the women that we dress, the community that we're building, and the editorial arm of our business now. And it's just created, it's world building, and I think it's the investment of time when it's something that really is meeting this white space. When those things all come together, it's magic. And that's, been the last couple of years for us, is just trying to keep up with scale and growth. It's a different set of challenges than early days.
And I would say it's a beloved brand, which I also think is something that's very hard to do. Like there's products you like, but you don't love the brand. And I think you have a very beloved brand by everyone who wears it. And that word of mouth, you can't quantify. You can't pay for that. It really is so special. And I think that's what's made you guys so successful. So we're going to end with some rapid fire.
Yes. The one thing I'll say, and sorry, I think what we have done is forced our consumer to hold a mirror up to herself and acknowledge how great she is, and to like really see that greatness and like lean into that. And I think that's where, we have, garnered brand equity, because like we're just there to like celebrate women. And there's just a lot of shit out there, and we're all, having to move through it, and we're a resource, and we're intended to be a resource. So
yeah, and it's authentic to who you are. It doesn't feel like a marketing campaign.
Yeah.
Okay, the Argent piece every woman should own first.
Oh my gosh. The straight leg trouser is our hero trouser. Everyone loves it. Highly recommend.
Amazing. Okay. Your dream collaboration.
Oh, can I say it? Okay. I'm going to say it. It's Carhartt.
Carhartt. Oh, I would love that. That's exciting. One thing every woman should say out loud in her next salary negotiation.
I mean, my gosh. Here are the things that I've accomplished. Here's what I'm taking on. My request is for XYZ. What are the next steps for me to achieve that?
Yeah, I love that.
And to yourself, like, you're worth it.
Yeah, you're worth it. And probably you should ask for more than what you're thinking.
And you're probably underpaid, because data would say it suggests that you are.
Yeah, exactly. And a female founder you admire.
Oh, God, so many. Mara Rosak from Rose.
Oh, the best. I
love
love that.
Mara.
That would be a fun collab too if you guys did something together.
You know, we've talked about it.
I
love Mara. Mara, she's
amazing.
one of us.
Sally, so good to chat with you. Can you tell everyone where they can shop Argent?
Thank you for having me. I'm a big fan. We are at argentwork.com. We have stores in New York and DC, soon to be other cities.
Yeah.
At Argent on Instagram, all the socials, LinkedIn.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Love it. Thank
Thank
you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Work Party. If you like what you heard, follow, leave a review, rate the pod, or slide into our DMs.
Check out the different ways you can create and cultivate on our website, createcultivate.com. From retreats and masterminds to our summits and festival.
We have different experiences to support you through your entrepreneurial journey from launch
to legacy.
Follow us at Create Cultivate on all platforms, and don't forget, work hard.
Party on.
Please note that this episode may contain paid endorsements and advertisements for products and services. Individuals on the show may have a direct or indirect financial interest in products or services referred to in this episode.